Welcome to She Can and She Will. I'm Marianne, also known as the Country Mompreneur, and I'm joined by my co-host, Disa McAllister. We are moms, work-from-home experts, and we love helping women take control of their lives and see all the possibilities. On this show, you will learn from us as well as other women who kick butt in their lives and want to help you do the same. So sit back and get ready for some fun.
Welcome to She Can and She Will. Today we are talking with Alegre Ramos and Natascha Corrigan. They are entrepreneurs and educators with 5 businesses and 3 kids between them. They're on a mission to help moms and caregivers prioritize themselves, save time, and accomplish their goals. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
5 businesses. Okay, so you got to tell us how you do not explode. Well, can you first start off just by telling us how you got to know each other and what got you to working together?
Oh, this is fun. Okay, so I'm a stay-at-home, work-from-home mom, and I don't homeschool my kids. Allegra's a stay-at-home, work-from-home mom, and she does homeschool her kid. And I just saw Allegra getting all this forward traction on all these types of things that, like, you know, I felt like I was able to keep my head above water when it came to my business and my kids, and like, that's about it. You know what I mean? And I had all these great ideas and goals that really only involved myself and didn't involve my family or anyone outside of me. And I was not able to get any traction on those, just kept back burnering it over and over. And I saw Allegra really kicking butt in all these different areas of her life. Plus she was homeschooling on top of, but being able to get all these things done that really lit her up, and you could see was like in alignment with her values. And so I had come to her, this was like late 2019 maybe. And I was like, Allegra girl, how you do all this? Like, I don't understand how you do it, and she just, and she'll tell you her little, her journey, but that's really how the conversation, we were already friends. We knew each other from a church family group, and our kids got along really great, and so she first was like, well, here's the planner I use, and this is how I use it. And so she handed that off to me. And then early March 2020, I sat down to kind of like get into it. And then we all know what happened immediately after that.
Yes.
And she checked in with me a few months into the lockdown and stuff and said, hey, did you ever really kind of test out that stuff that I had handed to you? And I said, no. I mean, I started to, but I didn't. And she's like, well, let me kind of like guide you through it, And so out of those conversations, out of her coaching me through what she was doing, our business BYWD, Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, was born out of that, because as we were really delving into it, I was like, girl, we can't keep this to yourself. And so, and she was like, I would rather do this with a friend. and we have fun together doing it too. And we love to joke that like Allegra is that person in the workout video who's in the front, who's like, and lift your knees and breathe. On the side, who's like, and just modify so you can see.
So, this is how we can do it.
Use a brick. Yeah.
That's kind of the Cliff Notes version of how we kind of got together to do this.
That's fantastic. So you guys have talked about morning rituals before. Why is that an essential routine?
Well, this is Allegra, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that my morning ritual is what keeps me sane, because as moms, as caregivers, right, when unexpected things get thrown at our families, usually it's the mom who has to absorb it. And I have had to absorb lots of different things in my almost 50 years of being alive, including, 3 years ago when my father passed away. I'm the only child who lives near my mom. And so I was the one who had to go and help with all of that. And knowing that no matter what the day throws at me, going to sleep knowing that I have my morning ritual to help set the tone for the whole day, to make sure that I'm hydrated and I take my supplements and I'm getting in some movement and, having some time just to myself. My morning ritual takes about 50 minutes. So 50 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it just allows me to feel taken care of, because when your children are younger, so my daughter is 12 now, and we're in a different season of our lives at this point, right? That whole like newborn, even say 0 to 5 period, I went through moments where I didn't shower for God knows how many days, let alone take my supplements or make sure I was hydrated. And the thing is that you can't show up as your best self if your cup is empty, right? There's that flight attendant on the flight that says, put on your oxygen mask first before you try and help someone else. What they don't say is, because if you don't do that, you're going to be dead in the aisle, unable to help anyone anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Moms, right? We're almost encouraged to sacrifice ourselves on the altar of our family, but that doesn't last. It's not sustainable. And so the morning ritual really helps to make sure you're taken care of so that you can show up as your best self.
Oh, that's wonderful. If I could go a little deeper, what is part of your ritual in the morning?
So she said hers is 50 minutes, 50 minutes, right? So that feels like, whoa, who's got the time for that? But she's developed this over a long period of time, and mine looks way different because I'm not a homeschooling mom. So I've got it chunked like before drop off and after drop off, right? Mm-hmm. It can be as simple as what is even just one little thing that could help you feel like you're just a little bit more taken care of, right? And so for me, it's one of the things that we recommend all the time, because there's a crazy amount of research behind this, is making your bed in the morning. If you're not a person who makes their bed, it can be, and I'm not joking when I say this, life-changing. There's a lot of research behind going ahead and making your bed really helps you feel like you have agency over your day, right? And then all of a sudden, and also it actually helps you to have a better night's sleep too, because when you undo your bed, that like signals to your body like, okay, we're calming down, that kind of thing. So that's a little side thing. If you have no idea where to start with the morning ritual and you're not already a bed maker, make your bed, right? But it's something as simple as, like, for me, it's make the bed. I've got a glass of water next to my bed, like just trying to get myself to hydrate. And I'm not joking when I say 1 minute of stretching in the morning. So my pre-drop off, morning ritual is small. It's not big. And then I don't consider part of the ritual like getting lunches in my kid's backpack and all that kind of stuff. Cause I'm talking about things that I do for me, that's specific to me. That is self-care. Something Allegra likes to say a lot is self-care is healthcare. If you heard that before, right? And it's not just mani-pedis and massages. Those are great, right? And that is also self-care, but it's not just that. It's those little things you do on the daily. And then I have a second half of my routine when I come back from drop off, because there's just no way for me to fit it in. Like, I'm not somebody who's going to get up earlier to make it happen per se. Although now I am incorporating, 10 minutes of meditation. So I do set my alarm now at 6:50, but it is a horizontal meditation, y'all. So it's, it's not getting up quite yet, but the 6:50 alarm goes off. I put on a little, audio track that I listen to before I get up at 7. So, and that's the main thing about what we talk about with the morning ritual is, like, just find one or two things that prioritizes you a little bit so that you're also not spending the rest of your day going like, oh, I got to get that stretch in, or I got to make sure I hydrate, or like, at least you got that first 16 ounces in, right? That kind of thing. Yeah. So it's not an open tab that you're kind of like, oh, I still got to do this thing for myself, and that's part of why the morning ritual is important. It's just really prioritizing yourself. And that's a little outline of mine. Allegra's morning ritual is a little bit more involved.
Yeah, so I get up at 6:15, and like Natascha, the first thing I do is do my horizontal meditation. It's the only way I've been able to manage to sneak in meditation. Setting aside a time during the rest of the day never seems to happen. And then I do little things like dry brushing. I do my skincare. I drink warm lemon water. One of the things I do that might surprise people as self-care is clearing the dish rack. Because, right, I clean my kitchen at night so that I can walk into a clean kitchen, but, I have a food safety background. So technically you shouldn't dry dishes with a towel. It's not technically sanitary. You're supposed to air dry them, right? So I do whatever last dishes didn't make it into the dishwasher, or the things that have to be hand washed, and I put them in the dish rack. So first thing I do when I walk into my kitchen is unload that, because I want to see my nice, serene kitchen. And I also don't want my husband and daughter to start putting new dishes that they've just washed on there, right? Because then it's not sanitary. Yeah. And so I see Mary nodding her head. And so that just helped me to feel like, oh, look at my pretty kitchen before the mess of the day, right?
Self-care. That's mental health.
Yeah. And then, my supplements and a little bit of movement. I do 20 minutes, on a treadmill. And the reason why is I exercise most regularly when I do it in the morning. Absolutely. However, I'm also my most creative in the morning. So I don't want to do a full hour workout in the morning. So I just get in 20 minutes. That way, even if I do nothing else the rest of the day, I know I've gotten in 20 minutes. Because as Natascha mentioned, right, when you have these things that you want to be doing, right? Like I want to be moving. I want to take my supplements. I want to meditate, but you don't do them. Then they just keep popping up in your brain as, oh, can you fit in meditation now? Can you get in some movement now? And and a crazy side effect is that my head is so much quieter and I'm so much more focused when I'm working because I've gotten those things out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I'm a morning person, so I totally appreciate the whole morning ritual thing. And I love the quiet and peace in the morning when nobody else is awake. That's my favorite time of the day.
Yeah.
Everybody else is still sleeping and it's nice and quiet.
I really like the horizontal meditation part. I think I'm going to try that tomorrow. So what do you mean when you say that women should stop shoulding on themselves? Should with an L.
Empty in there.
Yeah. Well, again, this goes back to expectations that are put on moms and caregivers and women in general by society or our family, right? Like you should look a certain way. You should dress a certain way. You should speak a certain way. You should make a certain amount of money.
All the cupcakes for the bake sale at the school. And if you buy them, you're not as good of a mom as, you should. Yeah. There's tons and tons and tons of expectations. I'm sure both of you are familiar and I'm sure your listeners are familiar.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you're living from a place of should, it means that you're allowing other people's values to dictate how you live. And Natascha and I will never tell anyone what their values should be. But what we will say is that when you live in a way that's aligned with your values, you will be happier and more fulfilled. That's what we've found in our practice.
Yeah. And we're definitely not going to should on you unless it's about bed making. In which do that. That's the only place where we think you're really yes, so but Allegra's point is that we couldn't tell you what your values are, but if you know what your values are, you're clear about that and you align what it is that you want to do with that. And I feel like Allegra mentioned that, we're in a different season of life and I'm caring less and less and less and less about what people think. I'm getting more and more and more in touch with like, well, what do I really want to do? And Allegra and I were talking recently about one of the ways that for me, which is I've taken these personality tests, like the four, what was Gretchen Rubin's, book?
Or tendencies.
Tendencies, right? So my tendency, according to Gretchen Rubin, is an obliger. I am definitely a people pleaser, and so it's so automatic for me to say yes to things inside this realm of shoulding, right? That I've had to come to like this really very, very plain, distinct thing. If I think the word, I could squeeze that in, or I say, yeah, we could squeeze that in. As soon as I say the word squeeze, that is a full stop. It is a full stop. And that is often then a no, or it's a full stop and an assessment. Like, well, would I rather do this thing that's now being offered and change the previous commitment, but it's a full stop. And it's been so helpful to me to have something that clear around shoulding that like helps me. Otherwise it's always like an internal debate, right? But at least if there is a word of yours that or a tendency that you have when you're going into this place where you're doing something out of obligation, fear, or shoulding, I invite you to like try to rewire it so that things become a full stop. And I'll tell you that part of having come out of lockdown has helped me really understand that. I was like, we're doing a lot less. And guess what? We're pretty fulfilled. Like I don't have to say yes to everything. I don't have to put 1,000 miles on my car every week to get my kids at every single possible activity and birthday party that they've been invited to, plus all the things that I said I would do, So wow, our life is pretty fulfilling by saying no to lots of things and not driving myself ragged to do it.
I first became aware of the shoulding in my 20s because I've never been a party person. Never. I literally went to one frat party when I was in college. And I was like, not for me. And then I was in my 20s and I was watching like Ally McBeal on these shows with my friends, and people would invite me out. And I went out a few times and I was like, I'm not having fun. Like, I would rather be reading a book. Why am I here? And I realized then that I was doing it because I thought I should. And like, why would I go out if I don't want to go out? You know? So yeah, just pay attention to that little voice, because you don't have to do that thing that you feel like you should, but you don't actually.
Now, when it comes to either the shoulding things or just doing things for yourself, how do you get your family on board with all of this?
Yes. Such a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Communication. You have to communicate. Natasha has this great, why don't you tell them about, well, you can tell them about the Kaizen way, and then I'll mention how that fits with my communication style.
So I mentioned about part of my morning routine is a stretch, right? And I literally do it for 1 minute, because the mornings can be absolutely crazy. And 1 minute of stretching, believe it or not, daily makes a difference. You know, yes, 20 minutes of stretching would be great. A full yoga class for 90 minutes would be amazing, right? But getting in that 1 minute, and this whole idea, this whole concept of like, well, what's 1 minute going to do? There is a Japanese philosophy called the Kaizen way, and their whole philosophy is start super small, right? If you say you're going to go to the gym 7 days a week for an hour, good luck. You're not going to sustain that, right? But if you say like, you know, on these commercial breaks, I'm going to get up and jog in place or lift a few hand weights for this, you know, for the next few commercials, there you're actually going ahead and wedging something in there, which can potentially, you know, spread into a larger activity possibly. So I'm still in the process of trying to get my family on board with the 1 minute stretch. They are not super flexible. None of us really are. But especially my older son and my husband, they're like, not. But it's something I'm doing. They see me do it in the hallway in the morning. And sometimes my younger son loves to join in with me. So it's really about leading by example in that regard. And then the other thing that I use to kind of get them on board is, like Allegra said, communication. My husband and I do this thing called the partner page. Sunday night, we have a printable little partner page. It just outlines everything. I put it in. He's very tactile. He's an analog kind of person. We do also run a Google Calendar that's shared. It's not checked as much, but if I hand him a piece of paper on Sunday night or Monday morning, that's like, this is our week that involves you, you know, and this way, you know, he can say, oh wait, I have a meeting that evening. I can't pick the kids up for such and such. That helps us have the week go a lot smoother. And there is definitely what comes to calling, buy-in, right? So like buying on, this is what our week looks like. And then of course, you know, if something involves him long-term, we of course talk about it, but this helps us like just literally get on the same page.
Yeah. And my husband and I have a weekly meeting every Sunday where we sit down with our calendars and we go through things, but we also will talk about things that are further out, such as, you know, I have a goal of once a year getting together with my closest girlfriends who all live in different states. And so we do a vacation once a year. And so kind of going back to this Kaizen way idea, like my friends and I, we just went on a 10-day vacation, and that's the longest we've ever done. And the first time I left my family by myself was when my child was about 2.5. And I said to my husband, I was still breastfeeding at the time. I said, I just need 2 days to have my body be my own. And I said, because I feel like I am just mentally just like losing myself, and I'm going to go crazy if I do not get away. And so he's like, okay. And so I went away for 2 days, and then I've kind of just like every year I'll add like another day to how long I go away. Right. And so now my daughter's 12. I went away for 10 days, but it started slowly. And it wasn't like I said to my husband, hey, I'm taking off for 10 days. And this is the first time I've ever done it. Right. So you have to get people prepared. And also my daughter, when I went away, when I go away, she says, okay, Mom, you go away. You deserve it. Because she sees me giving my all while I'm there, and she knows I'm going to come back and be refreshed, right? They see the benefits of it when I come back. And so you have to start small, be regular with your communication, and then build up to the bigger things.
Let's talk on a new topic. I know you guys have a book. Tell us about it. Tell us about how to conquer your priorities.
This is a hot topic for us, so I'm glad to hear about this.
We actually have 2 books, one regarding the morning ritual that we just talked about.
Oh, awesome. I didn't even know about that one.
3 simple steps to take control of your morning. It is a short read. It's really a workbook. And we also offer it as a 3-part video series. So if you sign up for that free 3-part video series, you'll get 3 2-minute videos in your inbox 3 days in a row that help guide you through all the things that we just been talking about. Why it's important to have one, what you would maybe potentially put in, and talking about starting small, and then just designing that morning ritual, which, by the way, can also be an evening. You can also, pivot to an evening ritual instead or as well. Part of my evening ritual is setting up my coffee for the next day. So this morning, my husband said, he's like, my today self loves your yesterday self for making. He said that to me today. He was like, I'm so happy with my now self or something. Your yesterday self made me laugh. But that is because as I was filling up the coffee thing last night, I was kind of like, ugh, I just didn't want to do it, but I was like, I'm going to be so happy I did this tomorrow morning, kind of thing. So he said that to me this morning, and I was like, honey, I got a podcast today. I'm going to tell them about that.
Yeah, we do have a chapter in Rock Your Morning. We do have a little chapter on an evening ritual because they serve slightly different purposes, right? Like the evening ritual sets you up for success for the next day, whereas your morning ritual helps make sure your needs are met, right? So we have both of that. And they're both workbooks because Natasha and I both have multi-decades of experience with education. And we know that the brain connection is stronger when you're actually doing the thing, right? I don't know about you, but reading 400 pages of theory and then not being given an example of how to actually work it into my life is so frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then our other book is 3, 2, 1 Done, 3 simple strategies to get your to-do list done. Also super short read. And yeah, so those are our 2 books.
And so your question was, how do you prioritize? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and probably the thing about the 3, 2, 1 Done book and what we've come to discover is and I'm for sure was guilty of this. The first mistake that a lot of people make in doing their to-do list is putting everything down. And I'm a fan of the brain dump, right? Like of getting things out of your head. But the number one tip that we give people in regards to that brain dump is don't put on things that you're going to do regularly. Like don't put on brush your teeth as much as that feels good to then have to cross it off. Don't put in feed the dog. You're going to do these things anyway. So with the brain dump, it's great. Yeah, get it all out of your head. Sure. But just don't even bother putting down, because that used to be me 100%. I was like, I'm going to put down everything. And I'm like, well, let me put down this thing that I already did, or put down this. Right. And, and the main problem with that is then you get that dopamine hit and crossing it off, but now you start really feeling accomplished and you've crossed off all these things that you were going to do anyway. And then you don't get to the prioritized things because you've been flooded with dopamine and you feel like, I'm rocking it today. Oh my gosh, look how productive I am, and so it becomes easier to not get to those prioritized things.
Yeah. I mean, we really want to help people understand your brain and body chemicals, right? Because they're kind of running the show anyway. And so if you can understand how they're running the show, you can use that to your advantage. And so, look, we're not trying to be curmudgeons and say like, don't write down things you're going to do anyway. We're saying because that's going to stop you from spending time on things that are more important, right? Mm-hmm. And so then our next tip, which I think is a kind of unique one, and it's a little bit more philosophical, is that when you do look at the list of things that are left, consider whether or not that task requires deep focus or shallow focus. And some people describe this in different ways, but our description of deep and shallow is deep is something that requires a lot of your attention, is difficult for you to do, or is time sensitive. Shallow focus, not time sensitive. You might even consider it enjoyable or restful doing it. And it requires soft focus. So like brainstorming, like I'm a morning person too. I'm a lion, right? My chronotype is a lion. And so I create the most content in the morning. I create content 3 times faster in the morning than at evening. However, if you're brainstorming, the brain science shows that having soft focus, being a little bit tired even, can help your brain make these like loose connections that it wouldn't make when you're super alert and focused. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you want to try brainstorming ideas when you're a little tired, which might be counterintuitive because you think like, I'm most alert in the morning, I'm going to do that. Creativity is something that it's difficult to force. You have to kind of let it come to you. And so the deep and shallow idea is really helpful in then figuring out what time of day you want to do the task.
That's funny. That works for me because in the morning, I'll write my blogs and everything in the morning. But at night before bed, I have a notebook next to my bed because I'll think of stuff really like things that I wouldn't have thought of all day long. I'm like, oh, that would be really, really great. So yeah, I keep a notebook next to my bed just to.
Yeah. And sometimes it's nice to sandwich a shallow task in between deep ones to give yourself a break. Right? Like, so if I've done some heavy writing in the morning, I might then go outside and repot a plant or do some weeding to just kind of clear my brain and reset and, you know, get some good brain chemicals like, oh, that was great. And it's also kind of a little reward.
Nice. Well, how can people reach out to you and work with you guys?
You can find everything on our website, BYW Dreams. Right? So BYWD. Right, bywdreams.com.
Wildestdreams.com. So bywdreams.com. That's the best way to find the Rock Your Morning 3-day workshop that we're really little mini course, I guess you could call it. We also do have a 1-hour workshop that corresponds with our 3-2-1 done, getting your to-do list done book. So that's like a live workshop where we basically, you know, go through what you would go through in the books themselves are about 45-minute reads, you know, so they're not lengthy, but they are hands-on, right? And so that workshop. And then we also have our signature course, which is called Harness the Power of Planning, which is a 2-day course. We teach it, you know, online. And that's about more of like a life design thing, really getting in touch with your values and then how you would take those values and prioritize them so that you could really kind of take a look at things that maybe you've been backburnering and you can create a path towards those things. That's a little bit more of like, you know, somebody who is, if you're looking like, oh my gosh, I've got to squeeze in some self-care.
Yeah.
That's the Rock Your Morning. If you're looking to be more productive, that's really the to-do list, workshop and book. And then Harness Power Planning. If you're like, all right, I really want to start making some headway on some of these things that have been kicking around in my head for forever.
Perfect.
Awesome. And we'll include all those links in the show notes as well. And at the end of every podcast, we like to ask people, how do you stay organized?
My planner. And when I say my planner is about 250 pages. So it's big enough to work as a place to take notes, a place to journal. And even I kind of do like a little bit of scrapbooking in it, if you will. Like if my daughter, you know, she likes to do cartoons. If she does a cartoon that I think is really funny that day, I'll slide that in my planner. If we go to an event somewhere, I'll put the tickets in my planner. My niece said the funniest thing yesterday. And this morning I have to share. It's just too funny. She was going to try cotton candy for the first time and she has a major sweet tooth. And my brother and his wife said, your head's going to explode when you try this. And so they hold it out to her. She's barely 3 years old and she like just sticks out her little tongue like, right? We're expecting her to chomp down on this thing, right? And she shakes her head and she's like, no, I don't want it. And they throw it away. And then 5 minutes later, she says, is my brain still going to explode?
Oh my gosh.
So, I had to capture that, right? So I wrote that down in the space that I had left yesterday. So I really find that by having one large planner, it keeps me organized. It keeps my notes. It lets me remember what my year looked like. It's just everything goes in there.
And one of the ways that I stay organized, of course, the planner that Allegra's talking about, and that's very much a key component of our Harness the Power of Planning. We really teach you how to set it up so that it works for you. I'm going to bring this up because we leave Friday for our spring break, and like these master lists this is our vacation checklist. Every time we leave the house for like more than a weekend, this just lives on my computer, and I've updated it. We used to be cat owners, the cats passed, now we're dog owners. So little things about you have changed, but this is something I have these for when we travel during the winter, when we travel during the summer, packing lists for winter travel, for summer travel, we always hold this tree trimming party every year. I have that master list it's just these master lists that I just save, on my computer. I'll update. So like when we had this tree trimming party last Christmas, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure I add this little, adjustment in here and make sure I put this on the list. So I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we go packing, every time we go on vacation. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. I have a camping pack list too. So like, and that's changed too, because different things are now that my kids are 9 and 12, I don't have to bring the same stuff that I brought when they were 2, and so just keeping that as like an ongoing thing on my computer, and I can update it it just takes the fatigue out of making that decision and creating that list new every time. Even if it's something like, oh yeah, I know what to put on. That's just one less step. And that's really helps keep me organized. And then I don't also forget things like, unplugging all the vampire suckers that, you know what I mean? That like, I don't have to, it's right here. I don't have to remember, oh yeah, we should do that, kind of thing. And plus, I highly recommend too, just going ahead and Googling like best way to leave your house when you're on vacation, right? Because there's a couple things on here. I did that before I created this list, and some things that I had never thought of, like I had no idea that my hot water heater had a vacation setting, and then you could turn your hot water heater to vacation. So it's not heating water all week while you're not home,
wow.
So things like that. So
I've never heard of that either.
I know.
Amazing.
So lots of little things like that. So just having these kind of master lists for things that you're going to do, even if it's only something you do like once every 2 years, if it's pretty involved, and you've kind of found things that work for you, jot it down. You can put it in your notes app. Like it doesn't have to be a document on your computer, like you can just put it in your notes app, and, attach things like for these parties, like recipes, things that I know, like, okay, when I do this tree trimming party, we're always going to have, this particular thing there. And so I just put the recipe and the shopping list in with that, so that I don't have to think about it as much. That helps me stay really organized.
Well, you ladies are full of information. This has been a great talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And we're going to put all your information in the show notes so people can reach out to you there. And, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. It's been a pleasure. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. She Can and She Will is a Country Mompreneur production. Audio mix by Marianne. Research by Disa McAllister. To learn more about this and other Country Mompreneur productions, visit thecountrymompreneur.com.